Hey, what's going on, everybody? Jonathan Bailor and April Perry, and we are back with another SANE show. What's going on, April? How you doing today?
I'm doing so well. I feel like I can just take a deep breath because nutritional serenity and SANE have just changed my life. And I'm feeling healthy and happy and very grateful for SANE today.
Nutritional serenity is upon us. Nutritional serenity is at hand, April.
It is. I'm super happy. It's been almost 3 years that I've been SANE. Pretty awesome. That's the longest I've ever been able to stay with just a regular way of eating in my whole life. So pretty exciting.
It's 100% exciting, and I'm also excited today because we're going to build on that, because one of the things we've discovered over the past 3 years, April, and we've talked about this and we've alluded to it on these shows before, is that it seems like so often while we crave more and more nutrition information, that we have more nutrition information than we know what to do with, but doing it and consistently acting on it and implementing it in our lives, there almost seems to be even a negative relationship between the amount of nutrition information we have and our ability to live it and be healthier. And that makes a lot of us feel crazy, because then we go back and we say, well, the solution is I need more information. And it's almost like you're in this information hamster wheel and you're not getting healthier. And it's very frustrating. Does that sound like something you can feel?
Well, I feel like so many of the questions I brought to you over the years are things like, okay, Jonathan, I just got this flyer on my door that says this, or I just watched this documentary that says this, or so-and-so is doing this and they've lost all this weight. I mean, all these things that you're hearing. And so often what's on the homepage of the biggest news media websites is not what's actually going to help you to be happy and healthy. And the people who have the most money or who earn the most money from the weight loss industry often aren't giving you advice that's actually long-term and sustainable. So that's what I've come to you for. I feel like you are best in the world at helping people find solutions that actually leave them feeling happy and healthy instead of just starving and frustrated.
There's so much, unfortunately, that's working against us here, April. I mean, one of this is a simple thing, which, again, it seems obvious, but I don't think it's top of mind, which is even if you're a business, and there's nothing wrong with being a business makes the world go round, right? We all have to pay our bills, but just even like a physician who isn't really a business, if you go in and you see a physician and the physician doesn't do anything, like they don't give you a medication, they just say, I think your body will heal itself. Give it 2 weeks. Most of us would leave the physician's office being like, why the heck did I even go in? They added no value. They didn't give me anything. Nothing has been added to my life. And think about that psychology for a second. The psychology of, unless I do something or unless I get something new, nothing will ever get better. Right? That, especially in the Western world, we have that concept of like, if there's a problem, I need to add something or to do something to make that problem go away. But I bet you would agree that if, for example, your hand is sitting on a burning stove and it's smoldering, it's not like, I need to add some Novocaine to my hand to make this pain stop. The solution is to actually, it's just to stop doing the thing that is causing the pain in the first place. But, and that sounds obvious, right? But if we go to a physician and we say, and they find out that our blood sugar is spiking and that we're diabetic, we're told, add this insulin to your lifestyle. We're not told, stop doing the things that cause you to become diabetic in the first place and instead adopt healthy habits. And that's this information. It's the same kind of thing. It's like we feel that we need to add information. We need to add information. We need to know more about like the BPA in our water bottles and all this blah, blah, blah. Versus, April, our grandmothers told us, eat your vegetables. Like, and you know what nobody does? Eat their vegetables.
Yeah, it's true.
And so the question then becomes, why is it that we as humans, it's almost like we are programmed to seek out more and different rather than taking a step back and saying, can I just eliminate, like an elimination mindset of, can I just stop doing the thing that caused this versus adding something new to address the problem I'm facing now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think that's why you and I are both a big fan of Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, that's talking about how you edit your life. You need to be able to look at everything that you're doing in your life and be able to eliminate everything that isn't a 9 or a 10. And that's hard to do. It's extremely hard to do because I think a lot of us feel, well, the busier I am and the more I've gotten done and the more check marks I've earned today, the more valuable I am as a person. I think that happens a lot. Or I relate back to so many conversations I've had with Eric where I'll be like, oh, I'm really trying hard not to be stressed. Eric's like, April, will you stop trying hard not to be stressed? Like, just don't be stressed, you know? And I feel like it's just, well, let me find a solution. Well, let me figure it out. Let's figure out what are those next steps. And I think when the next step is, let's take a step back and let's breathe and let's not be so worried, that it often you can't really see how that's going to get you results. But when you do it, you usually can see the wisdom in it.
I don't know if it's from the Greg McKeown book. I think he was maybe quoting someone else, but there's a phrase of, there is so little in life that actually matters, but the things that do matter so much. And if you think about just the direction of in our own minds, I mean, I find this to be a super helpful exercise, and it's going to sound a little bit funny, but sometimes I found this in my life, especially when I was at Microsoft and doing SANE simultaneously, where busyness is actually a form of laziness. Let me explain that for a second, because like to just brute force a problem, that there's some level of mental laziness there, because instead of sort of thinking of the best way to do something, we just frantically throw time at it. And I think, for example, a lot of people, I think you're a good example of this, April, when they have children, they find that sometimes their productivity doesn't go down, it actually goes up, because they're forced to not just throw time at problems. They have to take a step back. They have to prioritize, and they have to work smarter instead of harder. Has that been your experience?
Totally. And in fact, I went to a conference. It was a business conference just specifically for women. And there was a big slide that went up on the screen that said, like, your business will grow according to the amount of time that you spend on it. And I stopped for a second and I just thought, that's absolutely not true, because while you do need to be patient and invest time, you can spend, and I've seen people who spend literally 70 hours a week working super hard to build their business. And at the end of the day, they're not doing maybe as well as someone who's just doing it really smarter, right? Who's figuring out how to optimize and spend those hours doing the right things. Because I know for years, I would say, oh, let me go work on this problem. And as long as I could tell my head, I'm working on it, I felt some sort of satisfaction. But once I learned how, like when I literally had 4 hours a day that I had to accomplish what a normal person would do in 8 hours, I had to get rid of everything and just focus. And that's been huge. And that's been so helpful for my family, because I care about my husband and my children so much that if I'm investing any time at all on something other than them, I better be doing the best I can and making sure those hours count, because otherwise I feel like I'm robbing them and robbing myself of the time I want to spend with them.
And April, we turn this back to nutrition because it's kind of a similar thing here. One of the reasons that, in some of our shows, I think there was actually, I can't remember the specific show, but we have mailbags, which I love. And there's always these great questions that come up in our mailbags. And sometimes when I answer them, there's a little grin on my face. And you've called me a couple times during the show and you'd be like, Jonathan, why are you smiling? And kind of the reason I'm smiling is, this is going to sound a little bit silly, so I'm going to stretch this analogy a little bit, but it's like when it comes to your health and when it comes to nutrition, vegetables are like your children and your spouse. I mean, they're the things you do not want to neglect. They are the things that if you're spending your time thinking about anything else from a food perspective, it's time not spent thinking on how to eat vegetables consistently. And we talk about this on almost every show, where the almost no one, I don't know if I've ever met anybody who will come to me and say, Jonathan, I'm struggling with my health. I'm struggling with my weight. And I know that the number one thing that I need to focus on is eating more vegetables. It's usually I'm focusing on, I need help with my weight. I need help with my health. And I have all these questions, and then I ask them, how many servings of vegetables are you eating per day? And the answer is always not double digits, always. And that the question then becomes, again, is it about doing more? Is it about the next exercise routine? Is it about getting more information? Is it about getting a deep understanding of how these foods that are high in this new thing you read on this blog post, and, oh my God, I'm stressed? Or is it just about non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food fats in that order, period?
Yeah.
And how do we take on that mindset of focusing on that which is essential in other areas of life, as you mentioned, but also focusing on that which is essential from a nutrition perspective? How do we transition from pursuing that which is sexy and hot and new, when you know what is the least sexy but newest thing on the planet? The obesity epidemic. Like, when we didn't worry about all this stuff, when we didn't count calories, when we didn't even know what protein, carbohydrates, and fats were, and we just ate food is defined by things found in nature. About sub 3% of the population was overweight. And it's not because everyone was going to gyms. It's not because we were walking 15 miles naked in the snow back and forth to school every day. It's because we were focused on the things that mattered, generally our family, eating food, sleeping, doing something meaningful with our lives. And then everything else kind of fell by the wayside. I think that's why people call them the good old days. But those don't have to be the good old days. Like, we can still do that, but we don't. Why is that?
Well, I think what you're starting to get at, I'm excited for us to talk about it today, because I know that there are a lot of people who are in severe pain when it comes to even talking about weight or health. I mean, I know I had been one of those people where there have been many times where I've gotten extremely emotional just even talking about it with you, because there were such feelings of shame and remorse and comparing myself and thinking that as an almost 40-year-old mother of 4 children that I needed to look like a swimsuit model. And why didn't I? And how come I don't look like I did when I was 20? And feeling like I was doing something wrong and that I needed to just work harder and harder and harder in order to get those results. And I've been even just talking with some people recently who feel a lot of pressure, whether it's from a spouse who cares more about how they look than who they are, whether it's from friends or commenters on social media, where people are in such pain wanting to be loved and accepted, and then think that the way to do that is to keep researching what's the latest thing, what's the newest thing, what's the next thing I can do to lose 40 pounds in a month, or to be someone who matters. And what you're talking about here, vegetables, really, that doesn't sound like the answer, but it's pretty amazing.
And April, that's a great articulation of it, because what we found over years and years and years of not only clinical research, but also just talking with people, is that when something hurts as bad as the starvation and shame based mindset that's been put upon us, and especially women over the past 40 years, saying the solution to that is this like simple, almost trivial change, it's like something that hurts this bad cannot be that simple to solve. And there's something like cognitive dissonance in your brain, because you're like, I've cried myself to sleep hundreds of times, and you're telling me that I could have avoided that if I just like ate vegetables. That I am not willing to accept that, because I would be so angry at how painful this was for the past couple of years. So I feel like there's a natural resistance that it's almost like we hope it's not that simple, because it in some ways validates the pain that we've been in for so long.
Yes, no, absolutely. In fact, so you're like my go-to when it comes to any questions with food or exercise. Dr. David Burns is my go-to, anything like psychological. He's amazing and has written several best-selling books, and he has a podcast out. And he was even just saying, like, when somebody comes in and who's been struggling with depression or anxiety or some trauma, and they say, hey, how long do you think it's going to take to help me to recover from this? Like the rest of my life? Will we need to do years of therapy? Because they're thinking, what I've been going through is so bad, it must require years of therapy. And he said he responded to one person who had that question. He said, well, I can't guarantee anything, but my hunch is that we could probably solve this in just a handful of sessions. And the person was so angry. They were, throwing back expletives and so upset, thinking, how dare you take this serious thing that I'm dealing with and tell me we could solve it in a handful of sessions? Like, you clearly don't understand my life. And if I hadn't already lived through the same transition, I would also be like, Jonathan, seriously, I've eaten vegetables before. That's not what it does. But what you taught as far as how many vegetables, what kinds of vegetables, when, what you're pairing them with, what you're not going to eat, how you're not going to starve yourself, how you're not going to get up at 5 a.m. to run if you went to bed at midnight. I mean, all these things that you taught me that go with that, that's what finally worked. But it was like I had to listen to a whole lot of people who didn't make sense before I could hear your voice and say, Jonathan's got it. Like, that's why I'm such a proponent of SANE, because when I think of anybody I love starving, exercising hours a day, trying to be slim, and trying to figure out whatever they can do to be loved and be important, it's like, guys, go check out what Jonathan Bailor has to say. Okay, but you have some awesome new things. There's a new program that you're announcing here on the podcast today. Can we talk about it?
Absolutely. Well, there's another side of this too. I want to be very clear of, and it's a place where I think we have a really unique opportunity, because if you go on the internet and just look at like body image and self-love, you're going to see two camps. You're going to see the starvation and shame camp on one end of the spectrum, and then you're going to see another camp which almost gives the message that if you weigh 400 pounds and are at risk of having your leg amputated because you're diabetic and could go blind, that's okay.
Celebrate it. Yeah.
And celebrate the fact that you're going to die 30 years prematurely and won't be able to walk your daughter down the aisle. And both of those are wrong.
Yeah.
I hope I don't alienate anybody, but like, you dying 30 years before you should and suffering painfully up to that point is not to be celebrated. You deserve better than that. Just like you deserve better than starving and shaming yourself. So what we're advocating is something called loving yourself slim, which is, you've got to love yourself, but loving yourself to a point where you are objectively healthy and able to rock your mission in a productive way is very important, right? So it's like we talk about, like, love the sinner, but not the sin. You can love yourself while working towards not being diabetic. You can love yourself while working towards having a body that empowers you to live your best life and to be around for as long as all the people in your life need you to be around. And we call it loving yourself slim. And we've actually put together this 7-part program, which is really, really fun. And it gets really deep into what we call SANE psychology. And it's a 7-part module. Everyone who's on our mailing list, if you're not, please get on it over at sanesolution.com, is going to get a free preview of it. But it is so important for us to start. I think we need to take a couple steps back, and that's what we talk about in this program, where you don't need more information. And it may even sound like, Jonathan, from a business perspective, why would you say that? Aren't you in the business of selling information? What you need is information plus the ability to implement it, and you won't implement it until you love yourself. Yeah. And that's why we got to start from there.
I think that's so wise. I even just love the title of that, because I was talking with a friend of mine, and we were just having actually a business conversation, but I said, I feel like I need to do something in addition to what I'm doing right now in my business. It's not for financial reasons, it's just because I feel like I just should, like, I'm just doing one thing. Shouldn't I do something else? And the response that I got back, it was from a coach we'd actually hired, was, it's fine if you want to add new things. That's kind of the fun of being in business, is being creative and, deciding what it is you want to add to your business. But he said, but if you're doing it because you feel like who you are right now isn't enough, then that isn't going to solve anything for you. And I thought about that for several days, because I realized that there have been a lot of times in my life, like, I'm a doer. I'm a go-getter. I set goals. I'm super excited. I have like my vision board on my wall. I mean, I'm one of those people who's like, I really enjoy setting goals and moving forward on things. But I realized as I really sat back, some of my goals I've set aren't because I really want that goal. It's because I think I'm not enough how I am. And when we talk about going SANE and the kinds of foods that you're choosing, if as we're buying our vegetables, or as we're blending smoothies, or as we're deciding to feed ourselves healthy foods, we're eating it because I'm just not good enough how I am. And so I've just got to force myself to eat this food that, we're going to try to see if we can make something good out of it. I mean, that's a really poor perspective. Or I'm trying to get this body a certain way so that other people will think that I'm worth something. That's like the worst thing I can think of, because then your motivation is out of fear and shame. But when the message that you're sharing, which I think is so powerful, is you deserve better. I love that. And I think that that's something that all of us need to really take to heart, that when you're going to sit and eat a bunch of junk food, you deserve better. Don't eat it because you're not allowed to and we're going to be mad at you, but don't eat it because you deserve better for your body.
That's exactly right. It's not that you're saying, I mean, even the mindset of I'm going to treat myself. If you think about it, if someone came up to you and they poured out a line of cocaine on the table and they were like, well, I've been good all week, so I'm going to treat myself by snorting a line of cocaine. You'd say, oh my God, don't take drugs. You deserve better than to be a drug addict. That's not treating yourself. That's toxic, and you're putting it inside of yourself. Don't put toxic things inside of yourself, not because it's shameful, not because you're a bad person if you do it, but because you deserve better than to put toxic things into your body. And I think that's the key thing here. I mean, even with the reason I get so amped up about Weight Watchers is they're like, it's only 1 point to put this toxic trash in your body. So put toxic trash in your body. That's not loving yourself slim. Mm-hmm. That's not loving yourself slim at all. That's, in fact, now you would feel ashamed later if you did want to eat healthy food because you didn't have any points left because all this toxic trash ate up your points. So anyway, I think the why behind what we do and what we choose to put in our lives and in our bodies is so critically important. And that's why I would encourage everybody as a next action, if you're not already subscribed to the SANE mailing list, there's all sorts of free resources up on the SANE website, which is sanesolution.com. And please pop over there because we couldn't be more excited about this new Love Yourself Slim program. And you will get a free 7-day preview of it. And it gets into a lot more detail on what we're talking about here today.
I love that. Okay. So I love that next action. I have one more little closing thing to say and then you can close up. But one of the other things that I just need to say that you've helped me with so much is learning which voices to completely eliminate from my life. Because I found in my history of being a people pleaser that I was letting way too many voices in and letting too many people's opinions matter. And it wasn't directing me to make really optimal choices in every area of my life. But I think that as I learned how to take care of my body, and as I've learned not to compare myself and not to put these huge expectations on myself, it's really helped me to gain more self-confidence in not having to listen to anyone who doesn't care about the whole person. And I think that for anyone who's looking for a health coach, who's looking for, any coach you're looking for, or any inspirational figure that you're looking to listen to and learn from, if that person doesn't care about your whole life, your family, your sanity, your, physical body, your mental, if they only care about that one aspect of your life, then I don't think we need to listen to them. And that's just been super helpful for me. So I know you've been just a voice in my life that just helps remind me, brings me back to center. April, don't stress out. April, sleep. Go enjoy your family. Don't worry about it. Don't worry if you can't get to the gym for 5 hours a week. Like, it's okay. You don't have to. Figure out what's going to work for you and serve you as a whole person. And then that's huge. That's just been a huge blessing. So thanks, Jonathan.
Well, my pleasure, April. And I hope everyone can hear what April just said and really take it to heart, because you are a whole person. You're not just your arms. You're not just your abs. You're not just your thighs. You're not just your bank account. You're not just the success of your children. You're an amalgamation of so much beautiful biology and more, and we need to treat that whole person. So please make sure you're doing that. And please remember to stay sane. We'll chat with you soon.